Hi, my name is Cole Lindholm, and I'm the new president and CEO at Hope Ministries. Although I'm not technically new around here, I'll never forget my first day at Hope Ministries 25 years ago. As you can imagine, that day was filled with lots of excitement and nervousness, honestly. And so I recall parking my truck in the back of the building and walking around the corner of the building right along Grand Avenue, where the Door of Faith mission was in those days. And immediately I saw a woman dragging a limp, lifeless man by the coat across Grand Avenue. Cars were stopping, cars were honking as people were trying to make their way to work on their commute. And as I came up to the front door for my first day of work, the woman says to me, "Do you work here?" And I said, "Yeah, kinda." And she said, "Will you deal with this mess?" as she moved the man that she was dragging up against our wall. I didn't really know what to do at that moment, but I walked into the building and I walked up to the front desk and I said, "Hi, I'm Cole and I'm here for my first day." The deskman said, "We've been expecting you and welcome." And I said, "I think we might have a problem out front." And I told him about the story and what the lady had said to me. Well, the deskman promptly said, "Well, let's go see who it is." And so I followed him outside, and as we opened the door and rounded the corner, he looked and saw a man and he said, "Oh yeah, that's Rick. He's a regular around here." And he asked if I would give him a hand. And we carried Rick into the building, we carried him up to the desk, and we sat him in a chair and we got him a hot cup of coffee, and we began the work of sobering this man up. What I learned in the first few minutes of my time at Hope Ministries that day was that ministry will be messy at times, and we'll be dealing with extreme hurt and broken lives, all the while trying to point them to the life-changing gospel of Jesus Christ. Since that first day, I've had the joy of serving several different roles throughout our ministry, each one filled with some really meaningful highlights and milestones. But beyond the capital campaigns and the new buildings and the program growth, the thing that stands out most to me in my 25 years here are the lives that have changed. One example of a life changed happened several years ago with a resident named Dave. And Dave was celebrating a birthday, and so I remember stopping by the convenience store and I picked up a Snickers candy bar for Dave because I knew he liked them. And when I got to work, I paired that Snickers bar with a brand new NIV study Bible. And in the afternoon, I met with Dave and I gave him that Snickers candy bar and that Bible. And Dave was very grateful and appreciative of that. Fast forward 3 years into the future, and Dave stopped by to see me and the other staff members of the mission. And he wanted to share with us how good he had been doing. Dave had a job that he'd kept for several years. He had an apartment of his own. He had been clean and sober, and many of his medical issues had been taken care of. But what really struck me the most was a tear in Dave's eye as he shared the fact that when he received that Snickers candy bar and that Bible and a birthday wish from me that day, that was the first time that he'd received any kind of gift or anybody had remembered his birthday in a number of years. And so I was reminded in that moment how simple ministry can be. Ministry can take on many forms, but much of ministry is very simple. It's about showing love and concern. It's about extending hope and treating people with dignity and respect. I'm really excited for this new chapter, for myself, but also for this ministry as a whole, as we keep our Christ-centered mission front and center, serving our homeless and hurting neighbors in Jesus' name. Thank you for being a part of this life-saving, life-changing work.